who's got the better bowling lineup between the West Indies and England after Anderson retires? That is.
I think you asked this question before Kimo Roach was injured in the group chat, and at that stage I was like,
It made more sense.
no, that too. But I think at that stage you're like, you've got Roach, and then you've got Holder, and you can throw a couple of young talented bowlers around them.
Yeah, if you had Roach, Holder, Seals, and Alzari,
Yeah.
that is better than England's
Or
attack.
Shamar. Then if you've got Roach and Holder, you could play Shamar Joseph and not worry about his bad moments, right? Because we saw him in the IPL barely being able to hit the pitch at times. We're all really excited about his best, but his worst is terrifying. Without Roach, you're a little bit more nervous playing him in England because of the way he bowls. I still think he could be fantastic. Seals and Alzari Joseph. Alzari Joseph has been a promising young cricketer for such a long time, and he's no longer young, right? We know what his best ball is like. We also know that he can go missing. He's a real rhythm bowler, I think. Seals is fantastic, but he needs to hit that next level that he hasn't managed to hit at the moment. I think one area where they have a huge advantage over England is that they have a spinner. Gudakesh Modi is a fantastic bowler. They might not even need to pick him, but he's a fantastic bowler. Really, he's now been playing for a while. He's got some international cricket behind him. He's a much higher quality spinner than any options that England have. I know Bashir's in the squad at the moment. So the spin is big. But I don't think there's much between the attacks. They're two teams kind of trying to work out probably what their best attack is going forward. I'll ask you, you've seen Shamar Joseph probably bowl a little bit like we all have. He could be the wild card because England, I don't think England have anyone. I think Atkinson's fantastic, but Shamar Joseph could be an absolutely brilliant bowler. 90 miles an hour, moving it both ways.
Yeah, he could be. It depends how the West Indies see that and go with that first game. Because if you're the West Indies, you go and England's attack coming hard at them. It actually might be better off not picking him until the second or the third Test match. I think England, Alzari's going to play because he's vice captain. Holder, he'll definitely play. I think Seals has done really well for Sussex. We've had Farby a couple of times on following on, talking about how good, and we've had Jaden Seals on as well. How much he's enjoyed it, how much he's loved being in England. The rhythm's good, and he's got a few wickets. Sussex are flying as well, so I'd imagine he'd play. I'd hope they play a spinner because it'd take the West Indies about 9.5 hours to bowl 90 overs if they don't play a spinner. In England, I think England are going to have to go through a transition over the course of the next, 12 months to get themselves two bowlers that's going to go to Australia in 18 months' time. And the two bowlers at the minute that they've identified as Potts and Pennington. I'm sure Tongue will come back into the equation. Turner might come into the equation. One or two others. I think Turner's playing at Beckenham this week against the West Indies. So I think while they're there, I think England have got to play them. Is it a big call that Atkinson, Pennington and Potts play in the same game with Stokes and Bashir? I'm not saying that's a gamble, but it's one that these guys would take, McCullum and Stokes. You've gone from Jimmy Anderson, Stuart Broad, who have played 1 million Test matches, to maybe 5 Test matches between them. So I think Wokes will probably play as the experience once Anderson goes. Can Atkinson put back-to-back tests in? We're asking questions of a bowling attack who I don't think they've got the answers other than Potts. I think the thing about Potts, you know what you're going to get with Potts. I think Pennington's still raw, still think there's a lot of rawness about him, which is exciting, brilliant. Can't wait to see him go in international cricket. Same as Atkinson. You took him to India, didn't see him. I didn't really see him bowling the nets. So he's not bowled that much with a new ball for Surrey. I don't think he has bowled a new ball from the start of a game. Maybe he's done after the second new ball, but he hasn't done from the start of the game. So all these are things that are raw, which for me excites me as a bowler once Jimmy's gone. But to answer your question, who has got the best attack? I'd say the West Indies are probably the better attack because they're more experienced. England have got a good attack because they're playing in their home surroundings. So the new debutants or the new entries into the squad will feel obviously a little bit less pressure because they're playing at home, because of the environment that suits them. Being able to, the temperature's not going to be red hot. That doesn't add pressure to tired bodies and tired minds. So I think they are quite even. But I think looking at this series, if the West Indies score runs, they've got a chance. That's a big if. That's a big if. But I think the three seamers that the West Indies will pick, I think will suit English conditions against a batting unit that will come at them. Crawley, Holder will bowl at the top of the stumps. It's a pity Roach wasn't playing because he would have bowled at the top of the stumps. Alzari Joseph, you're right, is a little bit daisy in and out, but he's another one that.
But when he's right,
hit the top of the stumps.
Roach to left-handers would have been.
Roach would have been ideal. So England's come at you sort of game plan. The West Indies bowling attack of yesteryear might have been, this could go, it could go 8 and over, 9 and over. I don't see these West Indian bowlers going at 8 and 9 and over.
Watch them, they're quite defensive.
Yeah.
Like Roach is quite a defensive bowler, and Jason Holder is definitely a defensive bowler. So they do look at these things slightly differently, I think, at times. Look, I think it's a fascinating series. I just can't see how the West Indies will make any runs. Kevin Hodge, he's a friend of mine who's playing for the West Indies. He's a guy who's absolutely maximised his talent. This is a big step up for him. I know he played well in Australia. Alec Athanase, who I'm a huge fan of as well. He's a very good player, but very limited in where he hits the ball. England are going to work that out very, very quickly, that you set a field square for him, and it takes away his options. It's not that these guys aren't talented, but I'm not sure if they can go to that next level. And we all know about, Craig Brathwaite and his 2 shots. And Bashir might just play for Brathwaite just because we know that Brathwaite will block for 7 hours and then eventually hit the off spinner to long on like he does every single time. But there's not a lot of great batting talent there, and I think that's the issue. Is even if they manage to out bowl England in this series, I'm not sure how that will translate at a point where they could win the series. But England, this is another revolutionary act, right? They've pressed a hard reset button here, like really, really drastic. They're changing everything, and this is a West Indies side that gets up for England, and if they can bring it together, who knows what they can do? If on the back of guys like Brathwaite and Holder, those are proper Test players, right? Those are guys you have to go through them. They don't get beaten. You have to go through them, and then they've got some really high level talent, around the outside of that squad.
It's a big couple of weeks for Stokes as well, because he's not, once Lords is out the way, he's not just he's going to have to manage 90 overs, because you look at the bowlers, apart from the overs that he will bowl, he knows Potts inside out, doesn't know Pennington that well. Wokes, obviously, he knows quite well. Bashir, he's going to have to manage and help him. So I think it's a big summer for Ben and his management of the bowling unit, because he's got a lot of bowlers who inside themselves are searching to try and be, am I good enough to be an international bowler? Am I good enough to play at Test cricket? And for me, that's the art of, I think that's where Ben's brilliant at making people feel comfortable in a dressing room and on the field. But if it doesn't go quite well, where does then Ben Stokes take the individual of a Pennington or a Bashir or things like that? So I would imagine both oppositions this summer in the red ball game, if I was in their corner, I'd be saying we'll not go hard at England and take ridiculously reckless chances, but put pressure on, be forceful and putting pressure on, because there's a lot of players in that England dressing room who are still sort of searching for their relevant roles in this side. Not so much the batting, but definitely the bowling.
Shoaib Bashir, would he be your spinner? How is it that Somerset, who know Shoaib Bashir and Jack Leach, say Jack Leach is our number 1 spinner, Shoaib Bashir is our second, he has to go and play for another counties. England, though, say no, Shoaib Bashir is our number 1 spinner, and Jack Leach will come in if a pitch warrants 2 spinners.
Yeah, I don't really understand Shoaib Bashir being the main spinner in England. I'm not saying he can't eventually become that. This just feels like a reach at the moment, though, doesn't it? And I wondered, first I thought to myself, maybe they're thinking, Australia, we need a tall spinner, and we need someone who spins the ball away from the left-handers. But Australia doesn't have it. It doesn't have Warner anymore. And I know Travis Head is, maybe a lot of this is to do with Travis Head, and you want a tall bowler bouncing the ball in Australia. But yeah, no one thinks that Shoaib Bashir is a better spinner than Jack Leach at the moment, do they? I would
No, but
you know.
I look at it and go, well, we know what Jack can do, so I'm not really that fussed of the Shoaib Bashir selection.
He doesn't care about
It's not,
spinners.
yeah, but it's not as though
Just pick one of them.
exactly. But it's not as though it's like you're replacing Graham Swan. You know, Jack Leach. You know, Jack's
missed a lot
brilliant.
of cricket, hasn't
He's
he?
missed a lot of cricket
For one reason
and
or the other.
Jack's brilliant, but he's not. I think the ceiling level of Jack Leach has been reached. I don't think England know where the ceiling level is for Shoaib Bashir, and I think that's for me why in these 6 Test matches, I'd want to find that out.
Because of course,
and I want to find it out early.
Before Australia end of next year, there is a small matter of 5 tests against India next summer as well.
Yeah. That's the weird thing about all this, isn't it? Is that we know that they're still doing the same thing they always do, but whether they are putting themselves in the best situation to win these series, right? Like if they lost one of these series, where's the whole conversation about this team go, right? There's going to be a lot of questions asked. And then on top of that, they've then got, I think India's probably a better all-round team than Australia at the moment, especially with Australia's batting sort of, rebuilding itself. And India are, I think, very annoyed that they did not win the last time they were over here. Now, the one difference with India is there could be a bunch of retirements, right? We don't know. But the opposite could happen. I think someone like Virat might go, do you know what? I've given up international T20s. I might give up ODIs as well because there's not a World Cup for a while. I'm just going to play IPL and get great at Test cricket again like I used to be. So they might be playing a fired up, Kohli and Sharma, coming in and thinking, yeah, this is our chance to come back to Test cricket. So that's an interesting side to go up against. But again, I think it shows the way they are selecting in a similar way than that they play their cricket, which is they are taking big, bold steps and they're doing it with solid thoughts behind it. But there's a lot of risk in what they're doing for this summer, and also a lot of risk going ahead. Jack Leach is. They're putting a bet on the fact that Jack Leach is the sort of guy that can sit out a whole summer and it isn't going to affect him, right? And I don't know Jack Leach well enough to know if they're right or they're wrong with that, but I just feel like Jack Leach has been yo-yoing for his whole career and he's really good. It's a weird thing for them to just go, no, we're going to try this other kid who we know isn't as good a bowler as you at the moment.
I like what they've done with the Bashir one. I like that. And the finding out things, which let's be fair, England should beat the West Indies and Sri Lanka in their own back garden in 6 Test matches. Without the weather, I'd expect England to win 6-0. Sri Lanka come over here, a little bit alien condition. The West Indies haven't really got a batting lineup unless Brathwaite and Hope have the time of their lives. England should win both series. So why not have a look at? I've always been one. Let's not give caps for the sake of giving caps, but there's a ceiling level in Shoaib Bashir, and I want to know what it is. Mm-hmm. So why not pick him now? Our bowling attack has been heavily reliant on 2 guys for the last 15 years, and this day was always going to come. So let's have a look at Gus Atkinson. Let's have a look at Dylan Pennington.
Are you not worried they're looking at too many people at the same time?
No, not really, because...
Because you just think they're going to win these series anyway?
Yeah, I think they're going to win this series
anyway. So
anyway.
what if the West Indies seamers go nuts and they manage to win the series 2-1? How would you feel? I'm just asking, do you then go, we took too many risks? Or do you just like, the big series are India, Australia anyway? So for
me, if the West Indies win the series 2-1, it's got nothing to do with Dylan Pennington, nothing to do with Matt Potts, and nothing to do with Shoaib Bashir. It means our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 haven't performed.
Yeah, that's fair.
And if that's the case, then we should be looking at that.
Yeah, and they haven't changed that much. Although I know Dan Lawrence is in and around the squad.
Lawrence is in the squad. Bairstow's wherever Bairstow's. For me, Johnny, I would leave Johnny for.
We'll talk about him
summer.
In a second.
I'd leave him for the summer, but because I don't think Johnny knows what date is at the minute. He's been playing cricket for 12 months with different tracksuits on, and a break could be a good thing for Johnny Bairstow. But if the West Indies were to beat England, I don't think it's got anything to do with Shoaib Bashir playing, Dylan Pennington playing, Matt Potts playing. I would say if they win the series, it means Crawley's not scoring any runs, Duckett's not scoring any runs, Pope's not scoring any runs.
I get you there.
They worry me. The 1, 2, 3, even though Duckett and Crawley batted really well in India, that 1, 2, 3 worries me more than England's potential bowling attack going forward.
This is like really boring, but the matchup between Holder and Zach Crawley is really fascinating because Holder bowls a length that Crawley should nick off to almost every time he plays it. He basically Jason Holder is like the great version of Mitchell Marsh. And remember, Zach Crawley didn't play Mitchell Marsh particularly well. It's a fascinating matchup because he's just going to be putting it there and Crawley's going to be throwing his hands through trying to drive and those balls are going to be bounced. It's such a nerdy thing to look out for, but put that on your calendar, John. Friend of the show.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.